Hello and welcome to Better Gaming, an event and podcast series dedicated to all aspects of ethical gambling as we seek to make gambling and gaming safe, secure and socially balanced for everyone. I'm your host, Jim, and in this episode, I'm going to look at a review piece by Focus Gaming News, who went into detail about a recent webinar undertaken by Andrew Rhodes, who is the CEO of the UK Gambling Commission. He was making an address to the industry, looking at what will be happening in 2025. And he focused really, I think, on sort of like 3 or 4 issues, and they're all covered in this article. So I thought it'd be a good idea just to walk through it, give some views on it, and see what will be happening in terms of regulation in the UK market for the next 12 months. So let's dig into the article. So as we can see here, he led with the fact that the Gambling Commission will be undertaking a probe into illegal football betting in Britain, which I think is great news. It's something that needs to shine a spotlight on. And in the article, when you start digging around on the quotes of Mr. Rhodes, this is interesting because he said everyone should accept there has been an illegal market present, and as much as people want to debate the size and the value of it, the reality is we need to understand the flow into it and why that happens, as well as preventing its ability to operate at scale. We have been clear that we have focused our efforts on upstream disruption as much as possible, and as much as I will not go into detail, it was announced by Evolution they are subject to a review of their license as a result of supplying games to illegal operators. So this is the approach from the Gambling Commission from the outset, and it's one that I agree with. I think if you're going to dispute and debate over market size, over statistics, when inherently you know there is a problem, whether it's anecdotally or historically, that there has been an illegal market present, I think that's much by the by. You know whether it's a growing problem or not, or whether it's a problem of size that needs to be addressed. It clearly is. And in this instance, the Gambling Commission are almost, without aligning it to the street dealer market, they're going after the importers and the organised crime gangs, as opposed to the street sellers. And this is kind of where they're looking to do. And I think it's a preventative strategy that they're looking to do. So that what they're trying to go, they're going to go upstream, go higher up to the source to find out and try and block off these abilities for people to do this sort of activity. So I think that is very encouraging. It's something that I think is really important and much needed in the market. And it looks at people like State and their association with Everton Football Club, and also Man City and their partnership with 8xBet. And I think this really just needs to reiterate the point that football clubs have a responsibility to play their role in this. This isn't just a gambling thing. This isn't just a commission thing and a regulatory thing. This needs to be put at the doorstep of football clubs as well, because everyone's got a responsibility to resolve it. So that's the first part of what he was talking about. And he also goes into things like test purchasing in order to identify companies and organisations that are getting involved in this, and whether that impinges on any of the activities of Gambling Commission regulated companies, in which case they can make action. Otherwise, their hands are tied to a certain degree. The next point that he discussed in the webinar was about the impact of inflation and about how this presents an economic challenge. And it, in so much that it goes that if somebody typically favours a £10 or £100 bet with inflation at 10%, does that become an £11 or £110 bet? And what essentially he's saying is that the amount that people stake is not going up with inflation, but the costs of the operators and the platforms and everyone associated within the industry, their costs are going up. So what you're seeing is diminishing margins, and that could be a problem for the industry moving forward. The other element that he highlighted was the large society lottery sales, and that's something that refreshingly I have some experience of, even though mine's a mid-level one, but lottery sales nonetheless. And this is what I am seeing, is that it's highly competitive. There's lots of lottery players out there, and I think this is the first year that society lotteries have passed the £1 billion mark in the UK, which is incredible, particularly when you take into account that it's going to good causes and it's supporting good causes. So with a minimum spend out of 20%, that's £200 million. But companies and organisations and charities like the one that I'm involved in, obviously dedicate and throughput a lot more than the minimum 20% on there. However, the big earners are the ones like the National Lottery, and what they're seeing is that the participation in society lotteries could be seeing some reductions in play around the National Lottery. And in that, and this is the really, really important part that I find interesting, he says, as an aside to this, we are seeing the growth of participation in prize draws now sitting a little behind betting as an activity and well ahead of a number of activities. And prize draws are something that have been on my radar for a long time. You know, they fall outside the remit of the Gambling Commission. Something needs to be addressed to do it. I do think it will become a problem, and I think they need to be regulated. And I'm seeing a lot of prize draws, as with anything online. Once you go down an algorithm route, you start getting presented with a lot of companies that are doing it. Some you trust, some you don't. Obviously, there's high-profile ones like Omaze that would be backed by a lot of mainstream charities, as well as coverage on ITV. But then you're getting a lot of influencers who, some might be, but some equally might not be, will not be undertaking the draw in a fair way, that could be audited. So it's all of these sort of elements I really do think the Gambling Commission need to get involved with now. Obviously, it's a government department or an offset of the government in terms of regulatory matters. So it's not as fast acting as anybody would like it to be, but it's something that I think they need to start getting the gears into play in order to make sure that prize draws will fall under the remit. And I think there's something coming through certainly in the next 12 months that would allude to that. He also mentions the gambling levy. And this is the one, again, we've also discussed before, but it's set at 1.1% of gross gambling yields. That's for the online gambling operators. For land-based arcades, bingo operators and society lotteries, it's 0.1. And that's also the same for external lottery managers and local authority licensed by the Gambling Commission. So I think there seems to be some debate within the industry about the clarity of that levy. I think all will come clear in April when everyone goes on to their e-services portal and discovers a invoice for their levy for the next year. And I think then there will be some clarity on that. It is said that the government hopes to raise £100 million through the levy, double the £50 million raised through the voluntary donations to Gamble Aware in 23-24. However, so this is the Betting and Gaming Council have called for greater clarity. So that essentially wraps up the webinar held by Andrew Rhodes of the Gambling Commission. It's got some interesting points in there, and it also gives some indications about where the Gambling Commission are going to focus in 2025. So you're looking at illegal black market betting. You're looking at the inflationary stress that the industry is facing, and you're also looking at the levy. So that's going to be the main focus in 2025. As any of these develop, I will jump on, or if there's any insight, I will add to the commentary on it. But that's the wrap up from that webinar. And so thank you, Focus Gaming News, for that review.